we help managers and businesses create raving fan employees.
And why do we want raving fan employees? Because we want those super fan customers. Thank you for joining us today.
Let's get lively. In today's episode titled Go Ahead, Dangle Your Carrot, we're going to talk about employee motivation and the pain points associated with that. Nanette, what do you think dangle your carrot means?
The leaders in the organization offer a reward as a method of motivation. And on the reverse side, punishment for not reaching a desired behavior. So it's kind of like the donkey with a stick, like you see in cartoons.
Right. Let's get the jackass moving up the mountain by offering that carrot.
Managers can relate to that.
Yeah, we can relate to that. Absolutely. So I actually have a story that recently came across my desk about a company that was a remote workforce for about a year. And after being remote for about a year, they wanted the employees to come back to the office. And what the employee or the person who was telling me the story had noticed was that they were less productive while they were in the office because there were so many activities that they were trying to force this bonding situation. And kicked it over in the story was the fact that they were offering this television, like a chance to win a television. So you have 50, 60 employees, and you have a chance for one employee to win a television as a reason to come back to work. So that was like kind of like a silly reason.
So let me get this straight. So all these employees were working from home, meeting their goals and meeting their whatever their expectations were. And then all of a sudden it's come back to work. And the reason you should want to come back to work is because one of you is going to get a TV. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, it was. If they're doing a bunch of non-work related things while they're in the office, why would upper leadership, why would they even want them back in the office? You have the cost of overhead. There's numbers that you can track exactly the productivity of your employees. And I think you could probably compare between remote and in-house, whether they were actually being productive. So I thought it was interesting, but when the employees voiced their displeasure with it, what was happening was the managers were getting angry. So at the end of the day, the employee who brought this to my attention was sitting at their desk and the managers were walking by and happened to say they were really ungrateful about this television offer. First of all, I'm going to say this. You can get a 58, 60-inch TV for $250 anywhere. Okay, so that's not a big deal. Only one of 60 or 70 people are going to get it. That's number two. And they're having this boisterous conversation about the employees being ungrateful for not being excited about the opportunity to win this television because they're not remote anymore. And then the next part is what really struck me. They had made a comment like, how am I going to get them to work? I guess the only tactic that's going to work is fear. And then, yes, and this person overheard that. So we had a really long dialogue about that. I'm like, wow, your manager really needs to understand what motivates people, which is why we're talking about dangling your carrot today.
So I guess what their management thinking process was, okay, we're going to all entice them back to work with one television for all of them. And if they don't take the bait or take the carrot per se, then we're just going to use fear tactics to make them work and make them come back.
That is the plan.
That was the plan.
Not sure how that's working for them. This is fairly new incident and I've got to get some follow-up, but I'm going to go ahead and say that they have a high probability of losing some employees. What do you think?
Yeah, and not only that, when they do get back in the office, you're going to have a whole workforce that's lost morale, especially the ones that heard the fear part. If it were me, I'm going to be that donkey. I'm going to put my heels in the sand. I'm going to do just the minimal I have to do to get by, just to show them who's in control. That's what I would do. Just say it.
Right. I would be like challenge up.
Yeah. I heard the word. If you can move me with a carrot, let's see. Like, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
One of the things when they were explaining the story to me, I thought was interesting. It was obvious that people didn't want to come back from working remotely. When working remotely, they were held accountable. They had metrics that they had to meet. So the reasons behind coming back to the office, I think whatever those reasons are, they need to be honest and share them with their employees. How do you motivate employees? If you had to come back to the office, why do you? I'm trying to think of excuses of why would they have to come back? Was it because they thought it would be more engaged? Was it self-protection so that they're relevant? Who needs a manager or as many managers if we're remote versus live? And what are your thoughts, Nanette?
I don't know, because I've also faced that issue in the last 2 years. And one of the great reasons that they gave is because everyone else is doing it. Did you get that reason? Because we want everybody to be equal. And I don't know that I totally agree with that. Just because Joe is over there going to work, he doesn't have a kid and he doesn't have a 80-minute drive. So why does it matter if we're both hitting the same metrics? So that
Great.
it doesn't make any sense to me. I believe that companies now, we're pivoting on what to expect in business. And I believe that businesses have to move with the pivot and readjust how they do business to not only meet their metrics, but to keep their employees engaged and happy.
And the thing is, here we are at a time where everyone's complaining about the cost of gas, and now we're going to ask them to come back into the office. Why not use that as an opportunity to be like, hey guys, as an organization, we recognize that the cost of living has increased, and we're going to allow you to stay remote longer because we care about you and we want to assist in that cause or in that situation with the cost of living by reducing your drive, allowing you to continue to work from home. And it seems like it's a win-win. The electricity is the employees, not the organization. Maybe they're in a lease they can't get out of. I don't know. Does someone actually sit down and do the financial comparison of which one was most cost effective? And did they even consider the employee morale and what motivates employees to do a better job? Because I'm going to get bare minimum, especially if I'm fully distracted. And then on top of everything else, you have a situation where people aren't assigned desks. They're just find one, like it's every man for themselves. So now you're increasing ergonomic risks, safety risks, because I'm 5'2". So, a normal size desk doesn't work for me.
You mean every day they just come in there and pick a desk?
Yeah.
And they're not allowed to keep the same one every day? That's even crazier.
Yeah, you have the distraction about everyone around you, and then the silliness. We won't even go into the games and the different things that they do during the day, trying to build a team, but really not listening because they're not saying anything. There's a lot of silence on these calls, and they're not recognizing that the silence is speaking volumes. When you're at a meeting, okay, anyone listening to this to this podcast today, if you are in a meeting and you say, is there any questions? And there is crickets, you have an engagement problem. Okay. They're not engaged. They want to get off the call, or they have lots to say, but they don't want to say it because they want to keep their job.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm thinking about this whole scenario. And if I was in a situation where I would have to have the employees come back, or that was something that our company was talking about, how would I handle that? I don't know why we're not looking at using this as an opportunity to motivate people in the opposite direction. In other words, if that's the goal of the company, is to get everybody to come back to work, and all the employees are wanting the other, wouldn't it be a good idea to have everybody sign a contract or to buy in? We'll let you work from home, but these are the things that we expect while you're there. If you can meet those things, then we have no issue with you working from home because this is our concerns. And if you make us feel easy with those concerns, then why can't you work at home? I think that's an opportunity to create that contract with the employee about getting them to buy in to what you want. It's like almost like dangling the carrot backwards. You have the opportunity to get them to do more work, especially if that's the direction.
No, I agree with you. They didn't handle that correctly. I think a struggle that a lot of businesses, small businesses have, large businesses especially, is that they don't know how to be transparent with their employees. Be transparent. Don't have ulterior motive. Just have that hard conversation. I'm not sure why that seems to be such a common struggle. And maybe the problem is it doesn't have a valid reason. Maybe it's a self-serving reason, and maybe that's why they can't be transparent. I don't know. I've been spending a lot of time thinking about it. It just doesn't make sense to me. The only concern I would have with a full remote workforce was, were they being productive? But if you gave them SMART goals, and part of a SMART goal is having them be measurable, and as long as they're measurable and they're meeting this metric, why would you take that away from them? because that's really your concern, right? Is that they're not being productive and not earning a fair wage or the work that you're asking them to do.
If you're getting rid of the overhead of the business, and maybe you can't get out of the lease right now, but you can at least save electric and save that kind of
Right.
thing. You could use that as incentives too. Use that extra revenue or the extra expense you're saving and give them bonuses for the ones that exceed their metric. So there's all
Right.
kind of opportunities, and especially right now with all the changes in the workforce. I guess you would have to know the why. It's like you're saying, like, why is this so important for them to be back in the office? And I think you're right. I think a lot of businesses, not only are they not transparent, but they're, I know best and you don't know anything. That's how they treat their employees. Instead of getting the input from the employees, and what they realize is if you let the employees decide for you, you got the buy-in from the get-go.
Why don't we use that? Why not ask them? Do a survey in one of those meetings. You can take a poll and then just have everyone answer. Would you prefer being in the office or working remotely? Take a census of your employees, give them what they want, and then other than them smiling at you, being silent at the meeting, and then they're talking about you as management or leaders. And if your idea of them not being appreciative of your bad idea of offering a television as a one chance, it's not even a TV for everyone. It's one TV that you may or may not get as a reason to come back to work.
Yeah.
That's not a good idea. I'm sorry. It's just, it wasn't a good plan. If you're upset about it and now your new tactic is instilling fear, you're losing out for your company, and you clearly don't fully understand the impact that your employees make, the cost of bringing them on, the onboarding, the training, the getting them to care about their jobs. You should work on keeping the ones you have.
That brings me to what you just said, brings up something in my head that I thought of from another scenario that was similar. It's not the same, but it's very similar. There's a company that one of my friends worked for that they have safety protocols that they have to meet every quarter. In other words, if they don't have any accidents or if they don't have any safety issues, and there's a team of them, there's always a team lead, and the team lead's responsible for keeping everybody to have all their safety protocols. And if you didn't have any safety incidents in your area for that quarter, you got a bonus. And the bonus was relevant to how many years you worked. So as an example, this is not the amount, but if you worked for 1 year, it was $100 or $1,000. You worked for 2 years, it was $1,100. They did weird things like that. If you had one incident though, you didn't get it for that quarter. So the company is about a little over 100 people. And all of them worked really hard, really diligently to make sure that everything was safe in their area. And then the company came up with this brilliant idea. And it solved a problem for them, but it hurt employee morale. Because what was happening was they were having a lot of workman's comp issues with slips, trips, and falls. And that was costing the company a lot of money that way. So they took the bonus money that they were using and they invested in what they called safety bonus bingo. It's actually ingenious, but it didn't do anything for employee morale. So what they did was the whole company wide, it didn't matter what area you were in, all the bonus money went into a pot, and it went up every day there wasn't an accident by so much. And I can't remember what the number was. And then we get to big pots like 5, 6, 7, 10,000. I think one time it hit 22,000. So the longer it went without an accident, every day they gave every person in the company a bingo number, and they gave them a bingo card. So every morning they got a text message, and then when somebody won bingo, they got the pot. The pot would start the same amount again as long as nobody had any accident. It worked wonders for the company in that all the slips, trips, and falls went away, because miraculously, the people that always slip, tripped, and fall won bingo. I don't think any of the safe team leaders ever won bingo again. Like, they never got a safety bonus again, because only people who were winning, quote unquote, this random bingo was the accident repeaters. Isn't that miraculous how they win?
So was it rigged?
That was the feeling. I don't know that it was rigged because there was no evidence of that, but that's what the employees thought, because the employees that were always responsible for the safety and that were still responsible for the safety in their areas, the team leads no longer were automatically given a reward for keeping their area safe. It was the Joe Blows that were always your accident prone people that seemed to be getting the money.
Okay.
And that was the perception of the good employees. So it solved a problem for the company in that miraculously they went from having workman's comp claims once and twice a week to not having one for once every 6 to 8 months. But it did not do good for morale, because what happened in those areas where those team leads were, they didn't care because they were no longer taking the same initiative to make sure that everything was in place like they were before, because they felt like the reward was taken from them and given to somebody else.
It seems like it would be a fun idea. It's just, we've got to be fair. How could they fix that so it didn't seem like the people who were causing the accidents were the ones that were miraculously winning?
Yeah,
I think it could have happened depending on how many people.
I guess it could. There's over 100 and some people. It's been going on for the last 4 years. I think one person's won 6 times. So I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah,
It's weird. Yeah.
Yeah, I applaud that company for the idea of trying to think of a way to motivate their people with a safety incident kind of thing. Maybe they just need to think about that further. And then maybe there needs to be a little added rule that if you've had an incident and if you're a repeater, you can't win the bingo unless you go like a certain amount of time without having an incident.
I think the biggest issue for the employee morale was the team leads that were responsible for keeping that area safe. And they were like, a reward was snatched from them. Like they were working hard for that reward. And then all of a sudden it's, sorry, you don't earn that anymore. We're going to give it to everybody. You know what I'm saying?
They did the transition from the old way to the new way. They needed to handle that change better. And that's something we should probably talk about, is handling change in like future podcasts, because that is a big problem. Organizations change. It's the one thing that's consistent. So maybe what they did is they didn't handle the change from the way they're used to this new way. At least come clean with the final way of doing it. Let people know that this is no longer going to be the way, and that we're coming up with this new way. I'm not sure how that happened, if that was part of the problem as well. And I also think if there's one person that's in charge of the safety of others, if one person in their team is winning, then I think there should still be something given to the one that was leading it as well. Because leading people is a hard task. So if I'm in charge of a group of 10 people and one of my 10 wins, I think that I should get a little something too, because I influence that with this group of 10.
Well, I think it's hard because I think in this situation, the team leads changed every couple of weeks, every 4 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever. And you might be with this group of employees this week, but even though you're a team lead, next week you might be with a different. So the areas changed. So I don't think that was a solution. But I think where the morale came in was the company's saving a lot of money with workman's comp. A lot. If you're going from 2 to 3 every week or so to now not having one for 9 months, there's a lot of money saved by that company. And even though they were giving out big chunks of money, when you look across the company, I think in their head, they felt like they could still give me $1,000, even if it's not as much as it was before, or $500 a quarter, and they won't even do that. I think they created a small other problem with employee morale. And we all know that employees are your most important asset.
And then unfortunately, like most organizations, communication is not so open where I could just voice the way I feel about this situation and it be heard. You can hear it, but if they don't take any action, they're like, no, we're still going to do it this way. Sorry. And then that's where you don't feel heard as an employee. And again, here we are with another pain point of employee motivation. So let's offer our listeners some quick wins. If they're struggling with motivating their employees, what are some things that we can do as leaders in our companies to motivate employees, Nanette?
One of the 5 ingredients on the key to a lively office is a trusting culture. And I think to have a trusting culture, you have to listen to your employees, and you have to create that environment where they feel, like you just said, they're not scared to come to you with how they feel because they're going to be punished or they're going to be ignored. So number 1 is listen to your employees.
Okay, so that's a quick win. Listen to your employees. I agree with that. And one of the things that we also talked about is let's learn what motivates them intrinsically. We don't want to get into the habit of offering extrinsic awards, the money and the safety bingo that you're talking about. We don't want to get in the habit of doing that because not all the time can you offer these extrinsic rewards. So what motivates me as a person? I'll say what motivates me as a person is if you're my boss and you come up to me and you have something important that needs to be done and you're like, hey, Virginia, listen, I need this to get done. So you just told me that I'm a badass and that you come to me when you want it to get done. So now I am motivated intrinsically. I know that I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that not only do I meet your expectations, but that I exceed them, because it's like your own personal competition. And I think that's what we need to focus on, is that we need to learn what motivates our employees intrinsically. It starts by listening to your employees, like you said, and then, what there's a phrase, I can't think of it right now. I'm never good at those. You're always good at those. Like what floats your boat? Is that what it is?
What floats your boat?
Yeah, I think
Southern. All those phrases are Southern things, right?
Well,
So
yeah, I think it's what floats your boat, right? Is that what it means?
Yeah, whatever floats your boat. Yeah, I don't know that it relates well to this subject, but hey, it works. It fits. And going back, you're crazy. And going back to that trusting culture. And you mentioned this earlier in your scenario, explain to them why. When you can't give them what they want, explain why. Communicate. And if there's a valid solution that the employees come up with, work it out. But a lot of times if they understand the why and their values are the same and they understand that your customers are your number one thing for your company and you give them the why related to the customer and what you're trying to do, I know if you give me the why, I'm a lot more willing to give everything.
Right. And the thing is, not only that, but they might come up with a new solution.
That's true. Yeah.
So present your problems to your employees. They do the work. Maybe they'll come up with a new solution that meets all of the criteria and the needs, something you didn't think of. That's helped me for years. And hey, they're doing the work. Let me present my problem. Maybe they'll come up with a solution. I might have one in my head, but let's work it out.
Especially because you're a manager, you don't know all the little intricate things that they deal with every day and how things come together and how they work. You think you do, but you don't know all the little pieces.
No, you don't.
If you go in there and you say, we've got to get this done and we can't do this, but we have to do this, and you lay it out for them, a lot of times they will figure it all out for you. And because they're the ones that made the choice on how to get it done, they're gung-ho. You can't ask for anything else.
Right. You can't. I don't know why we don't do that. I think it's like some power struggle that happens there. And something else, a fourth thing, another quick win, if you would have it, is just having the realization that the same conditions don't motivate everyone. So if you went up to me and again asked for something to be done correct and accurately, I'm going to say, oh, that's awesome. I'm going to take it as a compliment and I'm going to be motivated intrinsically. And somebody like my mom, she would maybe accept that, but maybe she wouldn't, because her motivation might be more extrinsically like, okay, well, I'm the best. Show me that in my paycheck. So just the thought that we need to realize that not all the conditions motivate everyone. So you do have to learn what motivates them.
And that's why communication is the key.
Absolutely.
So I guess wrapping it up, what we're trying to say is get to know your employees and what motivates them.
Yeah. And not every award is received the same.
And the biggest thing I think is know what your employees value, because if you know what your employees value, you can learn what motivates them.
Absolutely. So share your stories with us on social media with our hashtag Carrot. We're excited to hear about anything, maybe motivation's gone wrong. And this is for your business owners, leaders, employees, any stories that you have on what you've done to motivate your employees, share with us. And where can they share it?
You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you can just put your hashtag in the comments. So I want to thank everybody for being here today. And thank you for joining us at the Lively office. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some great stories to tell us.
Yep. See you next week. Thank you.